It is now 13 minutes past 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. It was billed as a turning point in a great thinker's life. David Suzuki has delivered the Legacy Lecture that was based on the premise, if I had one last lecture to give, what would I say? Well, what did say the classic Suzuki?
Air is more than just the physical component of the biosphere. Air is a sacred element. It gives life to all terrestrial organisms. It links life in a single matrix and joins the past, the present, and the future into a single flowing entity. Our great boast is intelligence. Now, we're a clever animal, but what intelligent creature, knowing that air is sacred, would then proceed to deliberately dump our most toxic elements into it? We are air. Whatever we do to the air, we do directly to ourselves.
The Legacy Lecture will play an integral part in the film that chronicles Suzuki's life. He delivered this speech last night at the Chan Center, and the lecture will be released in theaters next year and broadcast on CBC in 2011. It's now 14 and a half minutes past 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And I'm sure a protege of Dr. Suzuki's is Alexandria Mitchell. The climate change conference in Copenhagen is now past the halfway mark, but the protesters are just ramping up. This weekend, environmentalists are organizing a massive global protest. And for an update on how this is affecting the UN conference, on the line is Alexandria Mitchell. Alex is a grade 12 student from Abbotsford, and we spoke with her before she left for Copenhagen here in Studio 10, but she's on the line with us now from Europe. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, what do you think so far?
Well, so far, I think the conference has been absolutely amazing. It's been very interesting. There are people from all across the world here, and what I think is really amazing is the fact that there are 1,000 youth here, actually over 1,000 youth from all corners of the globe, and they're all here united on this issue of climate change. And as you can tell from my voice, I'm going with less words and more action, which is what these young people here are doing right now. And they've established a group called Youngo, and it's a huge collection of all of the youth organizations and all of the youth delegates, and we're all working together on really pushing our governments to make a difference on the issue of climate change.
Now, you're there because you're very enthusiastic on climate change and wanting to get something done to change this planet, but there are protesters there, and what have you seen so far from the protesters?
There have been a lot of protests, everything from pro-climate change protesters that have been coming out to show their support for the cause of climate change and urging the governmental leaders to act in a progressive way, as well as those that don't believe in climate change that have been protesting outside of the Bellas Conference Center here, just on a variety of different levels, whether it's been yelling and screaming or whether it's just been peaceful assembly. There's been a whole variety of things. As well as in the Bellas Center itself, there are a lot of youth groups that are doing some sort of progressive actions. I wouldn't call it protesting in the Bellas Center, but they've done some actions that have been very visual for, again, the governmental leaders and other delegates at the conference to see the intention to really make a difference and really act on the issue of climate change.
Alex, you're an official delegate. You are an official youth delegate, and I'm curious how you feel about the protests and how you're responding to the protesters.
Well, I think that there's a need for two different types of involvement. And I think you need to be able to sit at a table, and this is important for me in my perspective. I find that I can accomplish a lot sitting at a table with somebody, having a discussion, and developing sort of common ground and being really, really diplomatic in those sorts of discussions. That's what I find works for me. But I find also it is very important to be vocal about it, to be vocal about the issues you're passionate about. And in this situation, these youth at this conference are passionate about climate change, and they're being very vocal about it in ways that are peaceful, which is extremely important because we don't want to condone anything that's not peaceful. But they're just being vocal, and I think that's what a lot of Canadians need to get involved in and to join up with, just being vocal and not necessarily protesting, although that can be very effective. But, making phone calls to their governmental leaders and really trying to raise their voice on this topic.
In fact, when you talk about talking to your MP, our Environment Minister and the Prime Minister will be headed your way in the coming days. What would you like to say to them?
I would like to urge them to remember the Canadian image that we have Canada is a country that for so many years has been viewed as a leader. We're viewed as a leader in terms of peacekeeping and in terms of our foreign policy and the way that we treat other countries. And in this situation, and this is what's really getting to me, it's inspiring to be here and seeing so many people united on this cause, but it's also really disheartening and embarrassing in some situations when you see that these other members of these other countries are coming up to me and Canada's name is being trashed because it really is the erosion of the Canadian image and our failure to act on something that the rest of the world is acting on. It's Canada that's really lagging behind, and I think it's so unfortunate. So I would urge Prime Minister Harper, if I'm able to talk to him, I would urge him to remember Canada's image and the type of leadership that I want to bring forward as a member of the Canadian population.
And finally, Alex, you've been working on getting a UN designation for the Burns Bog, and I'm curious how that's going.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, actually. When we're talking about climate change, we're talking about an issue. And when we're talking about things like Burns Bog, we're talking about causes. And these are opportunities to attack the issues of climate change and to really make a difference for our home province of British Columbia and make sure that it stays healthy and as beautiful as it is now. So Burns Bog is a fantastic place, and unfortunately, the way that the government has chosen to do many things with the Gateway project, it's in danger of being destroyed. And with Burns Bog, I think it's essential that we do everything that we can to protect it, and the best way to do that is with that UN designation.
Alex, great talking to you. Save your voice, take a lozenge, and we'll talk when you get home. Bye-bye.
All right, sounds good. Bye.
Bye-bye. Alexandria Mitchell, suffering from, I guess, airplane throat. She's a youth delegate in Abbotsford, and from Abbotsford, rather, attending the UN Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen. And if you'd like to check out her website, once again, it's plugoutttunein.com, plugoutttunein.com. And what do you make of what's gone on in Copenhagen thus far? Give us a call and talk back with your thoughts at 604-662-6690. That's our talkback number, of course. Or send us an email. Our email address is earlyed@vancouver.cbc.ca. Here's Jenna now.